I'll explain to you what just happened. I'd asked Father to read the long version of the gospel, and he realized at the end that it was the shorter version, so he was trying to adjust it. In that Gospel of Mark, it puts together two powerful miracles of healing. And they maybe put it together because the number 12 is in both of them. There's the woman who has been bleeding for 12 years, and then there's the 12-year-old girl. But both of the main characters teach us about how to be healed ourselves. They teach us that we need to be desperate, that we need to be humble, and that we need to have faith. And so we'll just look at those three things as it's shown in this gospel. The first is one of the leaders of the synagogue, Jairus. His 12-year-old daughter is dying. So any of you who've had a child sick or died, you know he is desperate. He walks however long it was to find Jesus and see if there could be a miracle. He is desperate for help from God. The second woman, that woman that's suffering from a bleeding, it says that she has seen doctors for 12 years, spent all her money, and she's worse, not better. Some things are just difficult in the medical world. And so she too is desperate. She is running out of possibilities for her life. And she again goes up to Jesus that way. And I think it's just a reminder to us that when we're comfortable, we can drift far from God quickly. Sometimes we're called to be desperate ourselves, to know our need for God, that is such a holy thing. It's not easy, but that desperateness for God is so important. And every time we come to church, every time we open the Bible, every time we receive the Eucharist, it's our desperate reaching for His help because we need it. We need it. The second part is the humility. Both the leader of the synagogue, he goes on the ground, which is the dirt and whatever is on that time, before Jesus' feet, and he begs him repeatedly, it says. He doesn't just say it once. He's humbling himself to ask for God's help. Same with the woman, that she also, once she's touched his cloak and Jesus says, "Who touched me?" that then she goes on the ground before Jesus and she humbles herself before him too. Now we know that in these last few weeks, the Catholic Church has been experiencing humbling, that we've had to hear stories of our mistakes, of things we've done wrong, and it's not easy to hear those things. And yet we're called to humbly listen and pray, to not just overreact, but to listen and pray. We've known for a while that the graves of the residential schools have been there. The TRC had commissioned a study, and in 2014, the report showed there was 3,213 graves unmarked of children who died in residential school. Especially in 1890 to 1945, the rate of death was very high. And so we're just educating ourselves, understanding about it, all the TB and other things that were involved. And so we too are called to be humble as we come to Jesus, that it's He who is the one that saves. Our relationship with Christ is what really gives us the healing power. After desperate, humble, a very important part is faith, that we really believe. This woman who was bleeding for 12 years, somehow in her mind she thought, if I only touch the cloak of Jesus, I'll be healed. Somehow she believed that. And when she reached for him, she was healed. Jesus said, I felt power going out of me. I've known a woman for quite a few years, accompanied her for many years now. And she struggles with mental illness. Good lady, lots of faith, but that real burden and challenge of mental illness. And some days she'll email me and she'll say, I'm hanging on to the clothes of Jesus. Today's a tough day. I'm reaching to touch the clothes of Jesus. And she just has that faith that that reaching will help her. In that Jairus is with Jesus, and they tell him, your daughter is dead. Like the shock that must have just hit Jairus. Your daughter is dead. And Jesus' response to him is, do not fear, but believe. Do not fear, only believe. And incredibly, Jairus believes him. Again, what would we do in that situation? But he had faith that it was going to turn out. Jairus didn't know exactly what was going to happen. Often we don't know how things are going to unfold, and yet we are called to trust, to believe. Boy, we have to pray for that. So if you have health issues, again, touch Jesus' cloak and hear his words. Do not fear, only believe. If you have children who are sick or grandchildren who are struggling, hear Jesus' words. Do not fear, only believe. As we hear more of the struggle with residential school and all the pain that is there, again, we reach to touch Jesus' cloak and hear his words. Do not fear, only believe.